Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of The Storyboard. We're going to have a very interesting conversation tonight. I want to thank everybody for coming in. You all know Norman Ball, the political editor of the Potomac Journal. Tonight, he's going to be talking to us about this whole business of this digital transition television that we've all been hearing about, not just for months, but for people in the industry. They've been hearing about it for 10 years. My understanding of it is the whole notion of transferring the signal that we get over our rabbit ears is an analog signal, and the powers that be want to change it into a digital signal. The original reasoning behind it was public safety people need more spectrum. That was highlighted, of course, after 9/11 when we discovered the police department couldn't talk to the fire department. The closer we look into this, it's not all about public safety. The cellular telephone companies, the television networks, everybody has not just a stake in this, everybody has an agenda. The only people we can't really find and understand, well, what is your thoughts on this, is the public. Very few of us seem to know what this is all about, how it came about, and how it is going to impact us in the out years. If you care about this topic, and you should, then you won't want to miss tonight's program. I'm Gerard for The Storyboard. We have an awful lot to talk about tonight, so let's get right to it. Norman, welcome to the program again.
Thanks for having me, Leo.
Okay, tell me about this. I've read, in fact, today's Post had a rather long article in which they tried to capture the essence of what all this business is about, this digital transition from analog to digital television and coupons, and one guy was in charge of this, but the other guy, the NTIA, did the other thing, and it is turned into a traditional Washington, everybody claims, well, I did my job, and no one notices, well, yeah, but the project's failing.
Well, I think, Leo, the transition, which has been in process for years, is in disarray, to put it mildly. And when the Obama administration came into power, very early in January, they recommended, and it's going to happen, that the cutover will be delayed until June from its original date. And in fact, it wasn't even the original date, February 17th. The Bush administration was rather silent on this. This is more of a Democratic issue. It's occurring to people. There's going to be a significant number of folks in the United States when this cutover finally happens who will simply not have television, certainly free TV.
Numbers that I have seen are anywhere from 30 million to 80 million. Nobody really is sure, but it's not a trivial number of viewers.
Well, people say only 5 to 10% of the television viewing audience will not have access to television because they don't take it through direct broadcast or cable, 5 to 10%. Well, that's a significant number of households. There's about 107 million households in the United States.
I have to tell you, it worries me when I hear the word only placed in front of anything, because it sounds quite dismissive, like, well, it's only 5%.
Well, only is and there is a little bit of a class issue here, and this is why the Democrats are so activist in this particular issue, and the Republicans have been less than enthusiastic. It's kind of breaking along partisan lines, because the people, obviously, that will be disenfranchised are those that can't afford subscription services, number one. Number two, there's a lot of television. The average home has 2 or 3 televisions. Many of them are just going to be orphaned TVs because they're not connected to a subscription service. So there's a large installed base. And I might add that up until 2007, the analog televisions were still being sold by the Circuit Cities and Best Buys. And I'm sure a lot of consumers purchased nice televisions in that as late as 2007, not realizing they would be obsolete in a very short period of time.
That is something that I don't understand. Knowing that this was coming, I can't understand why the FCC allowed, and the FCC does have the authority to what they call type certify or type accept a television, meaning we get to decide if you can sell this kind of a TV in the United States. They could have simply have said years ago, 2 to 3 years back from the date, we will no longer allow you to import or sell or whatever. Well, somebody else dropped the ball again.
Yeah, there's a series of drop balls. It is a multi-departmental. It's a very complex undertaking to retool the entire United States, its television install base. But to amplify part of the confusion, the FCC mandated that the affiliates retrofit their local affiliate stations, obviously from analog to digital equipment. That's estimated to have cost about $12 to $13 billion, and that was mandated. Otherwise, they would suffer fines.
And this is private money.
And this was, of course, this is the affiliate, the local business, the folks that own the local stations that hold the licenses that allow them to receive broadcast television from the networks, which is then broadcast out to our homes, to our various rabbit ears and whatnot. And I might add that the networks, of course, were actively endorsing this as well. Now what happens, here in December, if you can believe this, within a couple of days of one another, Les Moonves of CBS chief executive of CBS Corp, told investors that, quote, it's a very interesting proposition, unquote, that CBS move entirely to cable. In other words, abandon this affiliate network architecture, which I might add has just spent $12 to $13 billion to upgrade itself. Similarly,
their money, not of
their
CBS
money.
Corporate's money. This is their own local money.
Well, again, CBS, the networks own their own local affiliates too. They have a pretty significant install base and investment in local affiliates as well. But there's hundreds of affiliates across the United States that are effectively mom and pop organizations, and quite lucrative ones through the 60s and 70s. In fact, they were actively courted back in the golden era of television. The networks would pay them substantial amounts of money to become affiliates to their networks and to carry their programming. I might add, just if I can, Leo, Jeff Zucker of NBC said a similar thing. He said basically that the network topology is dead, and it's going to go the way of so many other obsoleted, the way the newspaper business, for example, is one example he used. So here are two CEOs of national networks that are walking away from a $13 billion investment within 2 months of the scheduled February 17th cutover.
What kind of a CEO notices this 2 months before the drop-dead date when they've supposedly been working on it for 10 years? Yeah. Now you notice?
So kind of you to notice 60 days before we transition. Well,
yeah, let me ask you that. Again, my insight into this is all gleaned from reading about how this has been moving along. The FCC has the authority to allow some of the stations to go over to digital as soon as they can. They can call the FCC, I guess, and say, hey, do you mind if we switch early? And the FCC almost invariably has to say, sure, go ahead. Yeah. Now, the person watching on their rabbit ears, if they didn't get one of these $40, $80 coupons, if they didn't buy whatever this converter box is, they're going to have nothing but snow.
That's right.
Okay. Let me ask this. Is free TV an implicit, at least, universal mandate? I mean, we have universal telephone service, universal electricity for a reason. I mean, these were national policy decisions. What's happening here?